several years ago, Jeff and I read the book, Men Are Like Waffles.
And Women Are Like Spaghetti.
It's by Bill and Pam Farrel.
Yes.
And it's been years, and I think you even did a study with some men on this at church. But there's some tidbits of information that have stuck with us and that are very important, and so we want to share them with you today. I think that you will gain something from this.
It was an eye-opener when we did
It was,
study.
especially for me, especially understanding men better, because God created us differently. This was His plan. We think differently. We process emotions differently. We make decisions differently. We learn differently. But He made us to complement one another. And He created us to use these unique qualities to work together.
That's right. And men normally, deal with one issue at a time. And that's the reason that we consider it as a waffle, because waffles have little boxes, little squares in the waffle. And so we will process one issue at a time. And because we're problem solvers, we like to compartmentalize things.
Compartmentalize.
Let me get that word out there. Compartmentalize. I knew I was going to mess that one up. We spend time on one thing at a time. And so sometimes that we will stay in one box and work on that one thing, and then we'll move to the next and go to the next thing. And because we want to be successful in the one thing that we're working on at the time.
Right.
And yes, men do have empty boxes. Sometimes we have something that we are just in that there's nothing going on. So if our wife asks us what we're thinking about, sometimes it's nothing.
And I didn't believe that. Before we read this book, I would ask Jeff, what are you thinking about? And he would say, nothing.
That's
and
right.
I thought he wasn't telling me the truth. I mean, honestly, it caused frustration.
It did.
Because I didn't understand how his mind works differently from us. Because women normally multitask. Our thoughts and our emotions are all connected, just like spaghetti is connected. We talk about everything. We worry. If we worry about one thing, it carries over into everything else in our lives. We can't easily be intimate if there are issues that we're dealing with and that haven't been resolved. Men can block out everything in order to enjoy his wife.
And so I think of a bowl of spaghetti and how all the spaghetti noodles are all intertwined to one another, and you can't see where one stops and one starts. And so
that's our minds.
And that's their minds. And that is women's mind. And it took me, after I realized that, it was such an eye-opener to me, too, to understand that women do think of many things at one time.
And we can't just block it out. I mean, it's very difficult. And this is the norm. I know there's always an exception, but this is the norm. So how can we be a team when we are so different? So, men, I encourage you to listen to your wives. We used to show the funniest video because sometimes men are, like Jeff said, they're problem solvers. So they want to solve everything. Don't cut us off. If we're telling you something, it's like if we stopped the game 5 minutes before the end and didn't let you watch the ending.
That's right.
Or an important movie or Star Wars or something. I don't know, whatever. Let us talk and listen.
And so women, stay in his box. Sometimes find
one box
where he's at and stay in that box to allow him to be able to dig into it a little deeper and to explain what he's into. Don't move from conversation to conversation too quickly, but allow him to be able to process and to continue to go through. Not that we're dumb or slow or anything like that.
You're just made
it's just
differently.
the way we are. And we like to talk about what we're talking about at the time and not jump from one thing to another too soon. Don't always try to fix everything. And that goes to both of us.
That goes both ways.
That goes to both of us. Don't try to fix everything. In fact, before you voice your opinion, ask if they'd like to hear it. Because that's a big thing. Sometimes, we need to be able to concentrate on what you're talking about. And so it might be good to ask.
And we have used this in counseling and told individuals to not just give your opinion, but ask, would you like to hear it? Well, when you ask that, they always want to, okay, right. I'd like to hear what you have to say. So I had a thought, and I've forgotten what it was. Oh, I know. Like if Jeff's watching TV, I've learned, don't just walk up and start a big conversation because he's in that box of TV and he doesn't hear me. So I have learned to say, do you want me to talk to you about this later, or do you want to pause this? If it's something important, and let him make the choice.
And that just shows respect also for on both parts. But respect from the man to be able to say, okay, I'll pause this or turn it off and listen to what you have to say. And for the wife to be able to just respect that time and be able to allow them to hear what you're talking about.
Right.
And just kind of step back for a moment.
Listen, it's going to take lots of conversations.
For instance, when we want to talk about the kids, then you talk about discipline or talk about setting boundaries.
Or about their privileges, about everything. The thing is, you're going to look at things differently. We were raised differently. We have different experiences. And so it's going to take some conversations and working together.
You might want to talk about goals and plans, about responsibilities in the home. Different things like that. You want to bring up and have conversations about.
Do not assume anything. Your spouse looks at things differently, and you're going to set yourself up for disappointment if you don't recognize the differences and work together. It helped us, honestly, so much when we realized that our brains really are, we knew they were different, but we didn't know why. and we can't change each other. We don't need to try to change each other. Celebrate the differences and work together.
Who wants to be married to themselves?
Not
really?
me.
We got married to one another for differences in our life and to bring excitement into our lives. And adventure. That's right. For sure. Be brave enough to ask your spouse what 3 things are important to them in the home. What 3 things they would like to receive from you. What puts a smile on their face. What makes them want to get up in the morning. And we did this years ago. It was an eye-opener, and it helped us greatly to listen, and study your spouse. Make them your priority.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. It's humbling to ask your spouse, what 3 things could I do, to make you happy? And
write them down.
Yeah, but it is, it's relationship changing. It is so good. Our differences require us to work together. If you read Ephesians 5:20-21, it says, giving thanks always and for everything to God the Father in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. Do not get hung up on that word submit, because we're supposed to do that with all Christians, not just our spouses. We're supposed to do that with everyone. This is good training. We are called to be obedient and submissive to Christ. So if we learn together to be submissive to one another, then it helps us to be more obedient children of the Lord.
That's right. Well, we are like waffles.
You are. I'm like spaghetti.
So check out this book, Men Are Like Waffles, Women Are Like Spaghetti. It's a great book.
And it might just help your marriage. See you soon.